Hello and welcome to Studio Visit with Raven, episode number 7 with my brother, Brett Sylvia. Welcome, Brett.
Hey, excited to do this.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I waited till episode 7 to have you on.
Lucky number 7, and it feels it's a little awkward to have like our conversations framed so officially, but once we get into it, I think we're gonna give a chance for people to see how we have conversations all the time, how we both share some similar ideas.
Brett, you're getting rugged. Oh man. I can do a little intro for Brett while we're waiting for him to jump back on, but basically Brett, we're obviously brothers, but Brett is also he's a really good artist, and he's done a lot of things that I think are really interesting kind of throughout his life that were pretty amazing to me growing up, him being 10 years older than me. He had a lot of different skills and hobbies, that were pretty different, which I think we'll be able to talk about. And starting with basketball, which is what the first thing I remember him being really into, and talking about to DJing and being a DJ in Miami Beach and living that life. Then getting into yoga and becoming an astanga yoga instructor and going to India, to his photography and videography work that he's now doing and has released things throughout. So he's lived a really interesting life with a bunch of different stuff that he's been involved in. So I think we got him back now. Brett, you back?
Yeah, what did I miss?
Okay. One thing, we got to check that internet in Cranston.
Yeah.
It's a good thing my mom doesn't work for, Cox, who is the ISP over there, or else we'd have to give her a call after this because, unacceptable.
Yeah.
But I think they have,
hopefully we're good now.
Yeah, I think we're good, but, awesome. Glad you're back. Welcome back.
Yeah.
I was just giving you a little intro, about your background and things like that. And maybe we could just kick it off starting at the beginning. I was kind of telling them is that the first thing I remember you being really interested in was basketball.
Definitely.
And basketball was, when I was really young, I remember that you had jerseys in your room on the wall. And one of those was Bobby Hurley, which I don't think a lot of people would know who Bobby Hurley is, other than that his brother just is the coach of UConn and just won the national championship 2 years in a row. But who is Bobby Hurley, and why were you so, why'd you have his jersey on the wall?
I mean, I guess depending on someone's age, they might remember Bobby Hurley because, back in the day, he was the point guard for Duke, and they were really good. He was not the tallest guy on the court, and when I played, neither was I. So he was definitely an inspiration. I even ended up going to his father's basketball camp. His father was a legendary coach in Jersey City, New Jersey, at St. Anthony's, I believe, and and now his son. Well, they're both coaches in college basketball now. I forget which school Bobby coaches at, but Danny's obviously a back-to-back winner at UConn. And basketball was it taught me a lot of lessons about working hard, and I'd like to think that some of those things carried over later into life.
Yeah, for sure. And it was interesting that you were a point guard too in high school, and you you don't have the height that, you know, probably
No.
most basketball players have, you know, even in high school. And you ended up, you know, your team won the state championship. You know, was it your senior year
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they won?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I was on the team when I was a sophomore and we won it that year as well. I definitely didn't get that much playing time, but yeah, it's senior year. Uh, yeah, we had an undefeated state championship basketball team. It's something I'm definitely proud of. And I think in order to be part of something like that, uh, because I, was undersized. I'm 5'4".
Yeah.
So I had to think about other ways that I could be effective on the
Yeah.
court. I had to be smart. I had to take care of the ball. Yeah, I worked really hard on my skills to be able to compete.
Yeah, I
And
remember you, you know, having those jump shoes and going up and down the
yeah,
street and just
yeah,
you either
the,
had one
the
basketball or two basketballs at all times, like just
the strength
dribbling,
shoes. Yeah,
and the strength shoes and just like up and down the street, like, you know,
yeah,
over and over again.
yeah.
Um,
We loved it. I mean, it's one of those things where you just grow up with that core group of friends, and what do you do in your free time when you're not playing basketball? Like, you go play basketball.
yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just was always is always something about you that I think is really interesting because, like, you know, I think some people given your size would have just been like, oh, basketball is not a sport for me, you know, like, or, you know, like, I need to try to do something else, right? Like,
Yeah.
the odds are stacked against me, right? With my height, I'm undersized, like I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, um
Well, when I started, maybe I thought I was going to be a lot taller. And then I just sort of stopped growing,
yeah,
but I still really liked basketball, like, a
yeah,
lot. So, yeah, I
you
traveled
doubled down.
all over playing, and yeah, I just really immersed myself in it. And I think that as we, explore these other passions that I've found throughout life, that there is that common thread of just really immersing myself in whatever I do very, very passionately.
Definitely. And then, you know, kind of you did basketball. I mean, you did basketball, but then also like during that time or shortly after that's when you started DJing as well, if I remember.
Yeah, I
And I
was probably like
remember,
16 when
yeah,
I
it,
really started getting into DJing.
and I remember, you know, you being in the basement and, you know, you had your turntables, you had crates of records.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there was no like today where you have, you know, MP3s or something and like loading those up. Like this was like you had to, you know, have records there to play and know what order you're going to play them in and like really,
Yeah.
you know, it's a lot was a lot harder than maybe today where you just have it loaded up on a computer, right? And you're just kind of
Yeah, there's pros and cons to each era of DJing. When I would go buy records, if we were to take one of those records off the shelf, like, I might have a story about what it was like on the day that I went in to purchase it, what was going on in my life. And then you fast forward into my DJ career 20 years later, when MP3s and computers are dominating the game. Like, I don't have a story of like, hey, this song, when I downloaded it, when I was browsing the web and found this song to down, like, the stories just aren't the same. But the nice thing about the way things are now is it's definitely become a more uh, accessible art form. And I see, like, videos pop up in my Instagram feed of like these young kids like doing awesome stuff in different forms too. There are like these young girls that are playing around on like actual turntables, like going back and forth, one record to the other. I'm like, that's amazing. And then you have uh, other kids that are just playing on controllers, like just
Mm.
tapping pads. Like, close your eyes and listen to the sounds and like the tools that are being used. Like, does it really matter? Either it's like this really creative and expressive form that's, captivating for your ears, or it's not. And yeah, it's good to see that, there's new iterations of that particular art form. And there's, you know, the purists that want things to be a certain way. And it's like, well, great, go make some phone calls on your rotary telephone when you need to call someone too. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
and then
like to see advancements.
and if I remember, you kind of started out as like almost a hip hop DJ, like in '90s hip hop, right? Is kind of where
Oh
you
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
was your
yeah,
first foray, I would say,
yeah.
right?
It was the 90s, so that was the popular music for, you know, me and my friends. And I had another friend who was a DJ, and that sort of introduced me to all that was, because I went over to his house and he had everything set up and just kind of like, what is this? It's like a spaceship looking thing, and just kind of like brushed the record against the turntable, and it dragged across the needle, and it made this sound that I just wasn't expected, and it just almost gave me a jolt. But that jolt was also like, okay, like that actually did not sound good, but I know there's a way to make it sound good. And from like that moment, like I wanted to figure out what that way was. And yeah, I definitely went all in on that, turned it into a career, DJed in Miami nightclubs. I DJed in Vegas. I DJed in Tokyo. Uh, yeah, I haven't really had to think about this because, for the past few years, I've been doing completely different stuff, sort of
Yeah,
closed that chapter. But yeah, I mean, I still love music, and every now and
yeah,
then I'll like hear a song and I'll be like, yeah, if I was still DJing, I would definitely be playing this. I can like picture the moment. And the way that I DJ now is like, I'll hear a song on Spotify, and there's just like certain friends that I know they'll like this song. So I'll
yeah.
just kind of redirect it their way. And that's me sharing music now. And yeah, fortunately that's good enough.
Yeah. And like when you were DJing things like that, like what makes a really good DJ? Like, is there something that you think like in that art form, it really makes someone stand out or?
Sure. I think that there are there sh- there is, and there at least should be a base level of, you know, technical ability to do the DJing thing. But
When you
really,
say
when it
technical
comes down
ability,
to
what do
it,
you mean by that? Like
just like,
mixing, like so
to be able
seamless
to,
transition, or is that
yeah,
kind of?
to transition between two songs, to make this seamless transition, you're doing math. You're matching the beats per minute, and the computer can do it for you now. But you know, I had to learn how to do it in my head and make, physical manual adjustments to the tempo in order for the beats to match so that it sounds seamless as you transition in it. Now, having said that there is this base level of stuff, it comes down to playing the right song at the right time.
Mm,
And if you could hit stop on one track and start on the other. And if it is the right moment, uh, yeah, that's what it takes to be a
And
good
is
DJ.
and is that is it just planning out the night like ahead of time that does that, or is it, or are you actually like looking at the room? Like, how does that work?
It works a lot of different ways, and you'd probably get a lot of different responses from different DJs. I think that there is planning in the sense that, throughout the week, I'd make sure that I was staying on top of trendy music,
Yeah.
what's important, or uh, what is important for me in what I want to play. So there's that preparation, but I I never had like a predetermined
Yeah.
set list, and I don't. If other DJs do, that's fine. But it was really just kind of going off of the energy of the people in front of me, and I would have these like tester songs to find out where the edge is, because I would like to push boundaries. So it's like, play this song, and they're still with me. It's like, oh yeah, maybe we can go a little bit further. But if you play that song and it's like, ooh, starting to lose them, we gotta
That's
go in a
interesting.
different direction. So then you play this other kind of tester song that's like more familiar, and it's like, oh, I get it. It's that type of audience. And sometimes even that song, it doesn't work. I mean,
That's
you
so
just
interesting. So it's
you never
like,
know.
yeah, it's like you're basically doing like somewhat experiments really of
Yeah.
in trying to figure out the crowd of what's going to maximally make them have a good time, in the end.
Yeah,
Um
there there's like this observation of what is happening, and you can just tell almost by like the body language of a collective, and
it's like
you
they
kind
made
of
the
you have to
drinks
take it
strong
all in,
tonight.
not
We
not
gotta
just
we
like,
gotta take it to
yeah, yeah.
gotta
And
take it to
sometimes
10 earlier than I expected.
sometimes it would be, you'd see one person in the crowd, and the way that they were reacting, it's like, you know what, they could be the catalyst for all else in the room.
That's
So I'm
super
going
interesting.
to
Yeah.
use that not use, but I'm going to just like feed off that one person, because they're like giving off the energy that, like, I want to go into that world. So I'm going to DJ for that one person
Yeah.
and see how that spreads out to
Wow.
the rest of the audience.
That's a really cool, like,
Yeah.
I never actually thought of that, but that's a really
Neither
cool
did
way
I,
of
but I
doing it.
know that I never really like
And I think like
consciously
watching
did
you
it, but I
DJ, I've
know that
seen that happen before because I've
yeah.
seen you definitely do that. And when I think about it, at El Baccio or something like that, and you're, in
Yeah.
Florida, like, there's that one person that gets on the dance floor. They're really excited. They start dancing. And now you are like, okay, I'm going to just try to get that energy, like that person's energy. I want to stay up so that becomes like
Yeah.
infectious to people around, right? And now they're into it,
Yeah.
like that's really cool. Like I never really thought that, but looking backwards and like you said, like I can totally see you did that, and that's really cool. That a good strategy of
They,
doing that.
they're good old days, but I definitely appreciate the fact that I get to go to bed a little bit earlier these days.
And
Yeah.
there probably was like in Miami Beach, I'm sure like you're talking about the trends and things like that. Like I'm sure like you couldn't just look at like the, it wasn't like the popular songs that were going on nationwide almost. Sometimes was it like there was Miami Beach specific, trends?
You
Did
know,
that
it's
happen or
it's
was it
funny
just,
because when I first started DJing, people would discover songs that they liked by going to hear a DJ like me.
mm,
And if you wanted access to stuff that was maybe, I don't know, more more on the fringe of pop culture. I wasn't playing, straight up pop music. I was probably playing stuff that was more on the underground
Yeah.
music side
No
of things.
requests.
And
You didn't take any
yeah, and that
requests.
as no, I in a lot of ways people wouldn't even know what to
Yeah,
request because
don't
these were these
request anything
obscure
from.
records.
Yeah, don't
As
request anything from Brett if he ever makes a comeback.
yeah, yeah.
You
As
won't get
EDM
it. You'll
got
probably get the
bigger,
opposite.
yeah. As EDM got bigger, then it got to the point that paired with the access to music, people came in like with their demands, like these are the songs that have to get played. And in some ways, like, yeah, that was kind of the music I was playing anyway, so it sort of fit in. But
Yeah.
now uh I remember like when I used to go to the gym, once I heard a song on like the gym playlist of like what the gym was playing, it's like, oh, I can't play this anymore. It's a gym song. But but before but then it got to the point where the music was just like at a critical mass that like
Yeah.
the people wouldn't move unless you were giving them that gym playlist
Yeah.
out. And it was like, I don't know. It was sort of tough to navigate through because yes, I wanted to continue to work and stay busy, but like I kind of want to like my goal was to always make people dance as, intensely to that song that they know and love to a song that they've never heard in their lives. And there were tricks to get people in there. Doing those tester songs and you build the trust so that if I, venture out for 5 to 10 minutes with a bunch of songs you never heard, like we don't need to like leave the dance floor and go get a drink or even leave. Like we know that it's coming back. This might be the calm before the
Yeah.
storm. I think a good DJ kind of like knows where the edge is and how to bring people back in.
Awesome. So you
Yeah.
did that, and then also when you were in Miami Beach, that's when you kind of started yoga, right? Like, is that the first time that
Yeah.
when was the first time you took a yoga class? Like, do you remember that like
That
fondly
was
or?
that was an interesting overlap of my life, having yoga in the morning and DJing at night.
Yeah, they seem
It was like
pretty opposite in some ways.
it was like 2015 or 16 the yoga started. The first time I did it, I absolutely hated it because it was such a humbling experience. I thought I was uh, someone who was athletic and fit, and yeah, I left that that class feeling completely defeated, and I was like, yeah, maybe this thing just isn't for me. But I had other friends who were doing it fairly regularly, and it seemed to have like positive effects on their life. And I was already, I was kind of on this healthy lifestyle path. I gave it another shot and kind of dipped my toe into it kind of with a more beginner's approach. I found the classes that were more appropriate for me. And then I tried enough of them that you like find the class like and you just stick with that. And I could tell that I was not only learning things, but I was, I guess, advancing in what I was able to do, and I was gaining a more of an understanding. And come to find out, it was actually a very specific type of yoga called ashtanga. And once I found out that this was an actual thing and it wasn't just like a bunch of poses that the teacher was calling out from the front of the room, like, okay, I want to know everything about Ashtanga. and I found out who the best teacher in Miami was, and I started doing private lessons with her. And after about a half a year, she could like see my passion for yoga and this particular style. I had a lot of questions. She's like, just messaged me one day. She's like, "Hey, I was talking to so and so, and we decided that we think it's time for you to go to India." And I was like, "What does that? What does that mean?" I'm like, "It's time for." They're like, "Yeah, you should go and practice at the main Ashtanga center. You know, you go there, you study for a month, and yeah, I did that,
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
it was awesome. Yeah, India was like amazing, and I ended up going back a second time a couple of years later. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, when I find something I'm passionate about, I go all in, and the common thread with uh, all of these things, it's always about like, how do things work? It's like that brush of the turntable, like how do you make these sounds? And even like as I went on with DJing, it's like, well, I know how to mix the songs. How do you make the songs? Like I went
Yeah,
through
it's true.
I had a music production
Yeah.
career as well. But the yoga was like, all right, does how does the what are all these inner workings of the body all about? Like really paying attention to what's happening, learning more about, functional anatomy. It's like, how does this work? Like when there is that element involved, like I become very immersed in it. And that's led me to, one of the other passions of my life, which I'm sure you uh, plan on discussing anyway. So I'll segue through it. It was photography,
Yeah.
and I actually attribute yoga to my passion for photography, because now I'm out there going to India. I'm taking photos. That following year, I went on a yoga retreat in Bali, and I wanted to know like where all the cool places are. So I'm like kind of bookmarking these things that I had seen on Instagram. Like, oh, I definitely want to go to this waterfall and this jungle setting. And I go there and I take my photo, and I take the photo, and it looks nothing like the photo that I saw. And you start to learn that people edit their photos, so I start doing the editing, and it's like, nope, still
Yeah.
still not there. I think I was probably on like an iPhone 6 or 7 at
Yeah.
the time. And then you're just kind of like reading through the comments on these photos, and someone's like, "Hey, what camera are you using?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, this is a Sony A7 II S." I'm like, "Sony A7 II S? What the heck is that?" And you look it up, and it's like, "Oh, these are being taken with professional cameras."
Yeah.
So what do? I go out. I'm all in. I go out. I get the professional camera, and then I go back and I do my second trip to India with this camera in hand. I go back to Bali a second time, and it was a difference maker. And
Yeah.
I wasn't seeking to be a photographer.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how this stuff worked. And you know I'm sharing these things from some cool places, and I guess some people thought the images were cool. I shared them because I thought they were too. And yeah, so that was like this digital photography phase, which went on for a while. And I guess it still does sort of in some ways, but uh, when I was this during the pandemic? I think it was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, I went and I went to Hawaii for 3 months.
Yeah.
And while I was on uh, just fa- I was on Facebook, and the Facebook Marketplace things. They'll
Yeah.
just kind of like randomly
Pop up. Yeah.
ambush you.
The
I don't
ads.
know if it still does, but at the time it was like these posts would just like show up in your feed. And this one particular thing was it was a film camera, and it got
Yeah.
my attention because it reminded me of this selfie that my grandfather had taken. And it was
Yeah.
just him of a mirror shot, and it was like this silver camera. And I was like, that looks a lot like my grandfather's camera. Like I think it might have been his camera. So I met up some some guy in a McDonald's parking lot, and I bought
Yeah.
this camera for $100. And
Yeah.
I started taking film photos.
Yep.
And oh, did that send me down a rabbit hole of how do things work? And it
For
was
sure.
awesome. And it's still awesome,
Were you at that point, were you shooting when you were doing the digital cameras, were you shooting them in manual, or was it you were using automatic a lot? Or do
Yeah,
you
it
not
was
remember? Like, were
mostly manual stuff. I mean,
yeah, by
automatic
that time
in the
you knew
sense
the
of,
exposure triangle and like into it, like,
yeah,
maybe not. And you knew that, okay, our aperture, if I adjust this, like, it's gonna let more light in, but then I'm gonna have
yeah,
like a depth of field effect. Like, you got that, you know, aspect of it and
yes.
stuff by that point.
I really fumbled through that. And I hesitated when you said all manual, because I mean I'd use autofocus
Yeah.
on digital cameras, but when there because there really isn't any room for error for the most part in
Yeah.
film, like I actually became a lot more conscious of what I was doing with that aperture and shutter speed, and you know doing the experiments with different ISO settings and uh, different films at just what colors would they give me, uh, and finding some favorites, but still wanting to be curious about you know different conditions and what was possible. Um, yeah, I think anyone who talks about film and why they like it, I think a common thing you hear is going to be the way that you slow down. And um, yeah, that was definitely part of it. Really, just immersing myself in the moment to make sure you get it right. I mean, uh, but I really like the way that film, without even touching it in editing, it just seems to wake up these just simple things,
Yeah.
things that like get passed over. uh they make you want to, or at least for me, and maybe some other
It
people.
changed what you were taking photos of, you would say.
Absolutely. It's like I ended up just kind of, I spent time in different places when I got really into film. Whereas when I was doing digital stuff, it's like I need to hike up this mountain to make sure that I get this amazing
Yeah.
landscape view. I need to do it at sunrise. Where with a film camera, like I've taken so many film photos out of the window of my car. Some of my
Yeah.
favorite windows are like, I'm gonna pull over. I'm gonna I'm gonna stop traffic to take this photo of like of a car parked in front of a cool looking fire hydrant. Like, I don't know, just like the more random, the more interesting it became. And it really just, I don't know, it made me just always be observant.
I feel that way too. Like, I don't know what it is with film, but it definitely, because as you know, I took a lot of landscapes before, and I still like to take landscapes with film, but I just have found that it's given me similarly to you, like the desire to take photos of like just stuff I wouldn't have taken before, like you're saying, that
Mhm.
random stuff, and you get inspired by stuff that I just like that people wouldn't, but maybe that's just also just you kind of growing as a photographer, right? Of what you, um, it's like the kind of standard stuff that you think everyone would take a photo of is less appealing. Maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah, I think
at least to me,
there's
it
truth to that.
sometimes,
Yeah.
is, um, and it's like, okay, you start to see things that like are almost ordinary, but no one really takes a picture of them or frames them in a certain way, right?
Yeah. One of the film photographers that I was kind of just really inspired even before like blockchain stuff. His name's Phil Moreno, and I think his original collection is called Ordinary Things.
Yeah.
And he lives in Belgium, and yeah, I mean he's got this photo collection of like ordinary things. I hope I'm getting the name right, but my first NFT was just a photo of a gas pump on
Yeah.
on a foggy day, and I don't know, it's just got this magical film element that just gives it like this perfect vintage kiss, and like his whole collection is like that, and it's just like bringing to life these ordinary objects that you know I really appreciate when someone takes those things and brings them to life, and just they found the inspiration to pause and capture that, and it actually worked out. And you just think about how many other people would have just completely ignored that. Not that it's a
Yeah.
bad thing that they did, but it's, I don't know what other artists are drawn to. It's like when you see artistry, you're just like, yeah, that's cool. I think it was DCA who was talking about, just these people who are photographing perfectly placed pieces of trash, and
Yeah.
there's art in the ordinary of that,
Yeah. Exactly. And you go to like, when you look at kind of the, what you see in museums for photography and that art form, it is a lot of that, right? It's the story they're telling through the photographs. It's, nor it's usually something either ordinary that's doing it a different way. It's just I think it just there's not as many like landscapes and things. I think the main reason is because that's been done a lot, and it's actually really easy to take that shot nowadays. Like, with the technology and everything like that, and it's like, there's they're great shots, and but like they're just travel places that people go to, right, and take that shot, right, and there's a ton of
Yeah,
those. um but it doesn't take as much creativity for those, right, because they are just beautiful, like everyone knows it, and like they go to those places, they take the shot, and you basically collecting that shot, right?
yeah,
um but I think it takes more creativity to make a really beautiful or artful piece out of just the ordinary, right? And I think that's what is probably what you're saying is kind of interesting to you about that, right?
Yeah, the the iconic spots of landscapes where obviously they're they're iconic for a reason, and they're definitely worth photographing.
Yeah.
But a lot of these places, there's quite a journey to get to these iconic spots to, you know, get that photo. Yeah, just hopefully there's some other moments along the journey that, you know, are equally as beautiful, or maybe just as a collection. I think that's where I'm at. I've definitely been enjoying the podcast. Some tough acts to follow. You know,
Yeah.
I was listening to one with DCA. I had to break it up into two listening sessions. So over the last 2 days, just a lot of really cool insight, and it was interesting to hear the story of Genesis and how, you know, just like tinkering around with some code becomes a much larger thing. It was really cool to hear about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's great. I think all the guests that we've had on so far is just like, I've been super interested in, just like people that I just have talked to and have just like, you know, they just have great stories, you know, and I think to highlight them and to just chat with them is something I just enjoy doing, period. So might as well record
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah, you're doing great with it, and as your brother, I'm definitely really proud to see what you're doing. You know, these are great conversations. Uh, all of your guests seem to be just really passionate about what they do, and that's definitely something that resonates with me. And I know a lot of it is generative art based, and I admittedly don't understand the coding aspect of it, but they're really digging into the code for a form of artistic expression, and to hear them talk about that, it's cool. It's definitely uh, relatable, even though I'm working with a different set of tools.
Well, it's not just generative art because you're the second photographer on the
Yeah,
podcast with
no, the
Pete. So,
conversation was
and
with Pete was awesome also. Yeah.
yeah, we're going to be going to, on the podcast, like, I have a number of artists coming up, not just generative artists. I'd like to extend this eventually to collectors too, and curators, but maybe that's a season 2 thing. I don't know, but that's something I'm interested in talking to because I think they have a whole nother perspective that's really interesting. So yeah, but thanks for the feedback on that. I thought maybe this is a good transition time to kind of talk about our project together.
Yeah.
Marfa, let's
It's a lot of
just
fun.
talk about
Yeah.
Marfa, I think that was the first kind of event that, we went to together, like Web3 event was I invited you to Marfa, which
You've got your Marfa Film Shop
exactly.
hat on.
RIP.
Yeah.
No longer there. But maybe
Glad we got
we'll
to
come back.
experience it. Yeah.
But so the first year we went, which was 2 years ago, we went, it was November. It's going to be in November again this year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It was freezing.
Very colder than I anticipated Texas would be.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I didn't, that was the first time that year that I used a winter coat, and it was in Texas, and I live in Massachusetts. So that's the, that's how cold it was. But it was still like an awesome time. Well, what did you, coming into, like you're saying, like you're kind of new to generative art and things like that, coming to Art Blocks Weekend in Marfa, what was your like initial, just thoughts about it, like, coming in and entering that community at kind of the seminal event?
Well, I was definitely on the outside of it all. This was like pitched to me like, "Hey, bro, do you want to go to Marfa? An event going on out there. It, seems like a really cool place." And in looking into it, like, yeah, it did seem like a really cool place, and the chance to travel with my brother, like, kind of that really just needed to be the only reason, a
Yeah.
chance to hang out for a weekend. Like, sure, could have been anywhere. Like, fortunately, it was in Marfa, and Marfa was awesome. And even though, there were a lot of art blocks related events going on, I sort of did my own thing. I mean, I didn't entirely keep to myself, but like while a lot of the daytime uh, sessions were going on, I was walking up and down all of the Marfa streets, like taking photos on film, and it was like just the scenery there for me at that time, and yeah, probably still. It just seemed like the perfect pairing of film photography and
I'm going to show
my
some of
my
those
surrounding.
photos that
Yeah,
you took now.
yeah, just
I think we'll
walking
just,
through neighborhoods, seeing just
yeah,
things that, living in the places that I've lived in, they look different than what I was used to. So, me and my camera were definitely drawn to what I was seeing.
yeah. These are the raw photos that you kind of took that year.
This is a mix. So some of these are actually from this past year
Okay,
as well. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
It's a
and
great
it's
one.
it's interesting. I really don't even share many of the Marfa photos because they they felt really special, and I sat on most of them because I knew I wanted to do something with them. I just didn't know what. And then you asked me about maybe doing a project together where we sort of incorporate these photos and pair them with generative art. And while I didn't exactly know how that would be possible, as you started to explain the framework, we started to make things happen. And
Yeah, I
as
think
we,
as because I was just trying to think, like I just saw your pictures and I was like, wow, these are really great photos, like, but and you were releasing NFTs and things at that time. And initially I was just thinking like, okay, maybe this is just, will be Brett's project and he'll just release these photos, you know, um, just as its own project. And I think we were talking about that for a little bit
yeah,
of maybe you would release it just your photos, which would be great just by themselves. But I think what changed it for me, at least, this idea was that, Artblocks kind of came out with this Artblocks Engine Flex product, which is just like it just allowed for IPFS, so like external photos to be pulled
yeah,
into kind of generative code
yeah, yeah,
and to be incorporated. And that really, them opening that up and kind of allowing for these external files to be brought into, this generative script, really just, sparked my creativity. And just like, I was like, oh,
yeah.
this is what we got to do, you know?
Yeah, and I remember when you told me that this was a possibility. I said before, like I knew I wanted to do something with the photos, but I didn't know what. When you told me that, like I knew that's how some of these Marfa photos were going to be introduced. I don't think we started for like a couple months
Yeah.
after that, we even had that conversation.
Yeah.
But then
Because
we just like it was like a long form brainstorming
it
session
was.
about how we would actually do it.
Definitely, because it was I think at first I was trying to figure out like how I would actually do it technically, right, in the code, because like it was like I don't know, it was kind of hard to figure out how do you mesh photography and gen art together in a way that's cohesive, that feels like it doesn't feel like it just that makes a new composition. And so this is what ended up turning into what we released this past year, which is Marfa Middle of Somewhere. And as which we kind of, people that been to Marfa know, is that like Marfa is hard to get to. It's, a lot of people would say it's in the middle of nowhere. And you came up with this name, and I think you saw it in a shop, right? Like
No, I didn't see it in a shop. It was our last day.
Yeah.
It was like our last stop before heading to the airport, Marfa trip 1. And you were buying some prints and stickers. And there was this woman, she was just kind of telling us like what local life is like, and there's people who come through, and they talk about this place like it's the middle of nowhere. And she's like, no, we're the middle of somewhere. And it was like, oh, that's like a really nice way of framing things. It just stuck with me. And that's how I thought of Marfa from that point forward, and now will continue to, and it will be preserved in that way on the blockchain as well.
Yeah, and it was a great name, and I think these are animated, so we definitely should click in and show like what these actually look like. But this is Mint Zero, but
the process was great of coming up with the concept for this, because I didn't know the coding side of it. So I would come to you with like these strange ideas that like maybe would not, jumped off the page at you when it comes to coding something. But then, I kind of just kept trying to push you like, well, but what if we do this, and can it be this? And obviously sometimes I was overruled. It's like, dude, if you want to get this done by the time we get to Marfa, we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. We had to, it's limited by what's possible in the code and the time frame, right? Like with anything.
Well, you were still typing away on the ride up there. I mean, that wasn't actually on the actual.
Yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, for sure.
That wasn't for the project itself. That was more for
the project was already shipped.
I don't know if you want to talk about.
Yeah, I was just trying because one of the things we did, which was great, is Proof gave us the opportunity. Shout out to Proof to like in Maggie and the team over there gave us the kind of to almost hijack their event down there and to allow to basically release these during live, like kind of, which I previously did with Bright Moments for color streams, which I really enjoyed. And I think it just brings a new dynamic. And at first, like, we're kind of thinking, okay, how are we going to release this? We were like, maybe we'll put it online or, just like, and it kind of just came to us like that. We wanted to release this live, like same thing I did with color streams and kind of live minting only in Marfa for people who went to Marfa. Which, probably we could have sold more, if we didn't do it that way. But, I think it was something special to restrict it to people that made the trek and to mint it with us right there. That was
I
special.
loved the personalized experience of this, and being able to see reactions as they were were created, I mean, to have people, you know, ask me about the photos I've taken, or, you know, or how we went about, you know, creating elements of this project,
Yeah.
to have those in-person uh, discussions, you know, that was amazing. And the other cool thing about doing this project is, uh, I know you've told the story before, but you know, we took these images that started in an analog world with film photography. We took those and we brought them into a digital space and paired that with your creative code. And then once they were minted, we actually took the those images and we ran them back through a Polaroid process and then would output all of these onto uh, yeah, Polaroid prints. So it went back to the analog world, and that was all done in person. We had a, you know, we did some at the actual
Mm.
event, but then we had a meetup at Marfa Film Shop. That was amazing too, because
Yeah.
you know, we were kind of just saying, hey, we're going to be here, like super casual, like no strings attached, just like wondering who would actually show up. But it's like we filled the Marfa Film Shop, and not that it's like this huge space, but to, like, you know, have a really nice gathering of people who were, you know, supporting and interested in this Marfa based project. Yeah, that's something that I will definitely always remember about being in Marfa.
Yeah. It was amazing doing this. And, you know, I think that it was so cool to do, you know, offer those prints, you know, like you were talking about. And um, just because it was like, I don't know, it was just so, like, it's just so cool to have the prints and then also to go back to, you know, you're going from film, right, to back to, you know, from film to digital with generative, you know, elements in it, and then going back to film, right, through the
Yeah,
Polaroids, right? And it's like a whole 360, but it's the beauty of it is that it got changed through the process, right? Of,
yeah,
you know, the final outputs of those Polaroids, they didn't look like the original film, and they didn't look like
yeah,
the digital output, right? It was like
yeah.
its
It
own
became
output.
something new all over again. Do I have
Exactly.
one over here? I had one on my desk up until recently. But yeah, the scavenger hunt element, you know, we did a few
Yeah, that was
giveaways,
cool.
and we were one of them. I think we taped right to the pole of where the photo
Yeah, it was
was
taken.
actually
Yeah,
taken.
Marfa Spirico, I think. Yeah, it was one of them when we
Oh,
did
that
that.
was one of them.
And
I
then
was
then
thinking
Think
of the
Rain we
Think
did as
Rain.
well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
uh,
this
yeah,
one.
that was really fun. And, you know, just the fact that you know, this is something we get to share with people who were there in Marfa. You know, hopefully they uh, can see it and have some good memories of their experience in Marfa, because I know I have plenty. And yeah, I mean, you're already set up to go back next year. So what are the dates I'm reserving again?
You asked me off the top of my head. It's in November again. I think
Yeah,
it's like mid-November before Thanksgiving.
yeah.
So yeah,
Bring a
we'll
jacket.
be there. Yeah, bring the jacket this time. Don't skimp on anything. Just, I mean, I think it was probably unseasonably cold at that point, but
Yeah.
for that year. But so hopefully it'll be a little warmer. But I'd still pack a jacket if anybody's going to Marfa in November for sure. It's a desert, so during the day it can change a lot at night. When the sun's not out. So, but it seems like I've heard a lot of people are going. Super excited, even though it's a while away. But I think Marfa's gonna continue to grow. And it's the event is always it seems to just get more exciting every year. So looking forward to this year for sure. I think one of the things that was cool too, that you had this idea of this film border, and I think it was something that really just brought together this whole project. Is like, I think at first we were thinking, okay, we're gonna put like film borders around only certain, maybe that would be rare or something like that. But I'm glad that we put it around like every output. And we even got like the output number up top, just like, it would be with a, if it was a roll of film or something like that. And I just think it's just we've gotten really good feedback on that part of it.
Yeah. I love that aspect of it. And I think it really, ties the look of the work together, but that wasn't supposed to be part of the actual art. Like that was actually the idea of how it was going to be displayed.
Yeah, exactly.
At the event, we were trying to build a displayer that
we had
as each mint kind of came up, it would just slide across like a film roll. So you'd have the active displayed one, but you'd see a little bit of the border of the previous
exactly, and it would kind of
shot on the roll of film.
Exactly,
and then we just kind of gravitated towards the actual
like let's put this
art.
in let's put this in the actual art. Like that's the way it
gave us a chance to put the details in it. I think it says Marfa 2023 on it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the bottom left. And so, people remember when it was released.
Yeah, I love that detail because it was the same. Marfa and Kodak have the same number of letters, so it just seemed to be like that, just perfect transfer to kind of keep the film element of it.
Yeah. And these are just great. And, it's the collectors that have them, it's awesome. Some great collectors. And I think these are just like, this is something that I'm just always going to be really proud of and really enjoy. I think we did a really good job on this. And like, I definitely, we're both like, I think we'll always look at this project and be like, wow, this is something that was really cool. And like, I think we did something that we're both very proud of, Yeah. And we contributed our different skills, and we're actually able to make something that is better than both of them, which is really cool.
Yeah. The synergy aspect of it. And it was also interesting to see how the things shook out, because there were certain ones where, it was almost like we spent a lot of time finessing to make sure we got right. And then like only one shows up in the whole collection. I mean, some of them didn't even
show up. Yeah. One of them didn't make Ice Plant, right? Was the one that never happened. And then we were waiting for like a long time for, this one, the Stardust one, to come out.
Is that the only one?
I think it may be only one or two. And then there was Prada was another one that wouldn't come out. And all of them, we didn't make certain ones. I don't think we made them. I think we all made them all the same rarity. It just happened to come down to obviously the negative versions were ended up being are rarer than the other ones, but like I think there was only one Prada output that came out.
Yeah, there definitely was only one of those.
Yeah, which we thought was like, this is like the iconic shot of Marfa. So
Yeah.
we were kind of sweating a little bit.
Yeah.
To say, oh man,
It was like
not one
it
product is
was
gonna come
like
out.
all the tests we did were like built
Yeah,
around this in the very early workings of it, because
exactly.
if we
Yeah.
could like get this one looking cool, we could, we could make some stuff happen
Yeah, and it took to
with
dump
the
to number
others.
52 before it came out. And I'm sweating and
Yeah.
I'm saying, did I get the coding wrong? Did I did I get the probabilities wrong? And I'm like, oh man, did I mess it up? And I'm like going through the code and like checking, like, but it
But in
just,
the conversation about the rarity, I think we both just agreed it's like, yeah, let's just see how this thing
yeah.
shakes out.
I
Let's not
mean,
tip the scales. Like, let's just
exactly. That's
really see how things
that's
work.
the thing with generative art, like this long form generative art, is that you don't know what's going to come out, in the end. Like you preview different outputs and things like that, but in the end, you don't know. I mean, it's up to the randomness of the blockchain. So, and I think there's something special about that, right? That is different than other art forms, which is cool. Like, but the other flip side is that like this an output, like in our case, like Ice Plant didn't make
Yeah.
it into the, it'll forever be in the code. If people want to see it or explore the algorithm, they'll be able to see it, but
Yeah.
there'll never be an official output with Ice Plant in it, which is cool. And
Yeah.
it's cool. Like, I just like this feature too. Like, like you still can go in on my site and like on art blocks and things like that, wherever you view this and have this feature, but like, generating new outputs, right? Like from the code that's on the blockchain. Like these are not official outputs,
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
but these are basically just generating outputs on the fly, like potential
Yeah.
outputs of what we were doing before we're releasing it, right?
Mhm.
So it's just different of seems like it's loading an image or something. I don't know. But basically, like you can go in here and explore what the outputs could be, right? Like, which is kind of cool. Like that in Ice Plants, if you went through this, Ice Plant would come up and never happened for the official one. So super interesting, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It
that's
was a
yeah,
great experience. And, it was like, for me, it was like such a shared one, because obviously we had the collaborative element between you and I, but is the first time that I got to experience what you refer to as like the collaboration with the collector.
yeah,
It's their moment in time that they choose to mint that creates the output, and the second sooner or later it potentially changes what that output would have been. So to have you know those shared in the moment experiences, reactions, follow-up conversations, in the actual place that it was. It's like, how lucky are we that we had the chance to make something like this and then kind of share it in the actual place where a lot of these photos were taken. I don't know. It's really something really special for me that I'll obviously
yeah,
always remember. Yeah.
yeah. It's awesome. I think, and then the second year, I think you got pulled into the community a little bit more. I think on your second
Yeah.
time, and got to meet a lot of I think you were taking less photos the second year and more going to
Absolutely
events and
true.
things like that. And I
Yeah.
think you got to
Yeah.
meet a lot of other artists and collectors and stuff like that. So
Yeah. It's such I don't know. When you like just you're around people like, yeah, these are my people. It's like, even though I don't know code, I mean, where there's just so many art-driven conversations, creative conversations, and you know the I don't know, the conversations are just, I don't want to say deeper and more complex, but I don't know, whatever we're talking about out there, it just seems to, you know, those are the types of conversations that I like to have. Yeah.
We're talking about that Mexican place across the street from Planet Marfa.
The Mexican
Honey,
place
it was
across.
like, what is it? Honey
Oh,
something.
that's yeah. I like that. They take good care of me over there.
Shout out
But
to them.
I I thought you were gonna say Marfa Burrito because
Marfa
yeah,
Burrito is
uh,
anher one, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That,
there's
but
so many
that's
good
not across
places
from Planet
in
Marfa.
Marfa. Really, everyone should. It's worth the trek out there. And like the first time we got there, I remember I was like, "Where are we? Like this is crazy,"
Yeah,
you know, like it just is kind of like, you know, feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, but you stay there, and then you just realize, wow, there's some really cool, all these cool shops. There's always this great food,
yeah.
great, you
It's got
know,
a lot
different
of charm.
venues
So
and things like that. Like, really cool place. And then, you know, obviously all the events that we went to and things like that, like, you know, and just having that community there is great. And I think that's never been done. Like I was thinking last week,
yeah,
like with like Bright Moments and, you know, doing their finale in Venice and things like that. Like, I just think that's one thing about like Web3 and NFTs and the art world that's never happened really yet. Is really like bringing, you know, people together around a visual art, right? Like maybe it happened
yeah,
in music or something like that. Like you were saying, this kind of feels like Winter Music Conference is what you always
yeah.
told me of like when it
It did.
started, right?
Yeah,
Which was a, you know, is a, you know, pretty well-known event in Miami, right? But you said
yeah.
when it started that it wasn't like that, right?
Right. So the Winter Music Conference is, I guess, what it sounds like. It was a music conference in the winter in Miami, and it was sort of where all of the artists gathered. And sure, there were parties around it, but in the early days, it was just kind of a chance for artists to mingle, discuss the projects they were working on, and everyone was really accessible. Like if you wanted to share some new music with, you know, a DJ, you just walk right up and, hey, I'm so and so, and it was just a very welcoming environment. You know, this is late '90s, early 2000s. Obviously, things uh, exploded in Miami as far as dance music goes, and you know that's so it's a wild week if you go. It's not even called Winter Music Conference anymore. I don't know if there still is a conference. Maybe there is, but even when there was, it was less about the seminars and more about those personal conversations,
Yeah.
those networking things, and I see a lot of that happening, uh, you know, in the Gen Art community. It's great to see. Like I love to see it.
Yeah.
Do you have like numbers on the photos that I sent you?
Numbers on them?
Like, can you see the
What do you
numbers?
mean?
Like I sent you a folder of these
Yeah.
things.
I mean, I can.
Go to number 21.
Okay, hold on. Let me share the screen again.
Yeah.
Number 21. I don't know if I have that up, but let's see. I can get it up. 21. Here we go. See this one. Nice. There we go.
Yeah, there's your community. That's just kind of
Exactly.
more of a candid photo, but I see Jeff in there. Is that
Yeah.
Harvey in the bottom corner?
Yes, that's right. It's Harvey.
I know Phil.
Yeah.
He's in the center of the frame, I believe. And
Elida's there.
uh,
You know, it's I think Sterling, you know, Lovid, they're both of them are here.
yeah,
Ixnay is here. It's just like, you know, Matt, these are like, you know, like one thing this is just like, Neil, like everybody here, Stefano, you know, it's like, it's crazy. These events, like in Snowfro said it in one of the, I think it was last year, you know, he was giving his keynote or something in the backyard. And, it is kind of amazing. And he just said like, look around, within, in this backyard is like
It's like 30 feet.
you
Yeah.
know, the top generative artists in the entire world are all here.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
It's so true. Like it just kind of was shocking to me, but I look around and I say, wow, like that is 100% true. Like, and it's crazy that this has brought together this community, and you have so many talented artists that are trekking to Marfa to attend this event and are around each other. It's like, it's insane. Like the level of talent that was in that backyard, which is amazing. It really just hit me when he said that. But, in this photo again, like I look at these and see the art that the people in this photo have created. And it's just really high quality stuff. And they really are on like, that top tier of artists, and really pushing the boundaries of generative art, in digital art in general, into trying to get it more into the mainstream. And it's always been kind of a fringe art, but it's becoming more now. It's being more that the consciousness of it is growing, I think, and will continue, especially just with digital art, generative art, all these things, because it has nothing, like I've said this before, it's like, look at how much of our culture is digital, right? Like, and how many things we engage with that are digital. And, it seems to me that, contemporary art, if it's the art of the now, digital art deserves a pretty big, seat at that table, right?
It has to have one. So just to, turn the tables on you, when you talk about, a moment like that, when Snowfro is saying that, just look at all of the talent, in this backyard. When you go to events like that, and you're having your high level conversations about generative possibilities, like how inspiring is a weekend like that for you, to be around other folks who share that type of passion?
Oh, it's amazing. And, I think it's so inspirational, to be around all of them. It's also intimidating because you're just like, wow, these people are really good. Like, it's again, like the top of it's people that are extremely talented. And so you have a little bit of imposter syndrome, I think, being there as well, which I think everyone experiences. But, also, it's the conversations are just amazing, to talk shop and to talk, exactly how the bread is made, right? And how, not only that of techniques and stuff like that, but also, just about the industry, about where it's going, where we see opportunity to be creative, to, also celebrating different works of art. They had that great exhibition there of different projects that were out there. So it's awesome. Really looking forward to it. Again,
when the weekend's over, it seems like people are torn between the world of like, I don't want to leave here, and I don't want this weekend to end, mixed with, I can't wait to get back to work on this next thing. Like, I know exactly where I'm putting my energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Brett, it's been great to chat. Where can everyone like find you and things like that? Where should they check out your stuff on?
Brett Sylvia Film on Instagram is where I tend to share the most stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And, I'm a little behind in sharing things
Well, you've been
lately.
doing a lot of videography, which we didn't talk about. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
maybe next time, but yeah.
yeah, like you've been doing a lot of the videography work, and Color Block Sin is your company, right? That is going to be
Color Box.
Color Box. Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Art
Yep. Yeah.
Box. You can forgive me for that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Color Box Sin, which is a company you started that does videography and things like that, which you've done some great work with that. So people should definitely check that out.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun to help you out with your uh, release video for Dots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Brett did the release video for Dots, which is great, which is on the Dots, website on dots.raven.art. That was amazing. Thank you for that. You also did the color streams video, which was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was fun too.
Yeah. So you just really bring it out every time we do one of those. I'm just amazed of how you put everything together and things like that. So, yeah.
I still have a bunch of footage from Marfa that I never did anything with. I probably should at some point, but yeah, man, it's been great to talk about all this. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
It's all good. Well, no one will know about it after this because we'll just cut it out for the regular one. Beauty of
little snip.
Exactly. Yeah. Of one of the difficulties of doing things live, but people roll with it. I'm sure it's all good.
Just so everyone knows, this is kind of how just a random conversation on a Tuesday goes between us. We just chat for a couple hours about
God knows what
things. We chat about things.
Exactly. No, it's awesome, and thanks for coming on here. Well, I'm sure I'll have you back on at some point, and we'll talk about something completely different. But I think we covered a lot of your trajectory and where you're going, and I think people should definitely check out your work. And it's been awesome, to watch, to grow together as artists and to be putting out work and we feed off each other, I think.
I was going to say, it's nice to be able to, have somebody to bounce ideas off of, and, where, just volleying all week long, just, hey, what do you think of this? It's, it's good, good to have.
It's great. I mean, you got to have, I think one of the biggest things is that having friends that are, at that level, right? That you can talk to, that talk.
Will also tell you no too, because
exactly, yeah.
You don't want someone that it's good to have people that pump you up, but like you also need to have kind of a voice of reason in there. Like, did you ever maybe consider it doing this way? And there's a strategic way to do that too. You don't want to bruise the artist ego, where you're just trying to give some constructive criticism and they perceive it as, oh, my art sucks.
Yeah. You have to, that's the nature of the criticism and things like that as well. But I think the thing is just like, we both want to talk about things deeply, right? And not just on the surface level, and not just the weather or something like that. It's great to have people around that you can talk to about creative things that are really trying to push the limit and to think of new ways and creative ways to do things and build things.
I always say I don't like small talk. I like big talk. So
I think everybody that I that's friends with me and friends with all of us is like, I think it's great to have people around that you can jump right into the big talk and go to the depth with, right? You don't need to just sit on that small talk level and waste time. That sometimes is uncomfortable. It's like hard to deal with that small talk, and
so uncomfortable.
No, I know. I'm with you. Like it's
Yeah.
you just feel like you only have so much time in life, right? You want to be
Yeah.
spending it in expanding your, just using every second you have to expand your character or your knowledge or something like that, right? Like life's short. You don't have time to waste, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's been it's been real, man. Thanks for let me do this.
No
So
problem. Yeah. Thanks for joining. And I'm sure we'll have you back on. So
cool.
Brett, thanks very much. And, we'll see you soon. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And, this was episode 7. We'll be back next week with another guest, which I'll announce next week. Cheers. See ya.